Yeah.
Yeah.
Go every meeting.
Really has cookies, that was it. Move by.
Yeah.
Sessions. Only one? Working sessions.
Yeah, for everyone.
Then we won't start off.
Right. And then just,
Next.
yeah, microphone.
Share.
Oh.
You actually get picked up, John, because we tested it.
I call to order for the city of Petoskey and the city council planning commission joint meeting, August 2045. This is a special joint session. I'm gonna ask that you rise with me for the pledge of the flag, to the flag of the United States of America. I pledge allegiance to the
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
city clerk back to the call roll for both groups, city council and planning. This staff.
Demore,
Present.
Shields,
Present.
Actrob,
Here.
Walker,
Here.
Murphy,
Present.
McSweeney,
Yeah.
Newman,
Here.
Kronberg,
Present.
Meridian,
Here.
Detmer,
Here.
Moss is out.
He is unable to attend tonight.
Reed,
Present.
Wilmot,
Present.
and Robson.
Present.
Oh, thank you guys for giving up a beautiful summer evening. We won't be here for the whole evening. I hope we won't see the sun. Okay. So I'm gonna turn it over for new business. I'm gonna turn this over. Just be reminded that I know we can get deep in the woods on some of these issues. I know Shane. Talking the Winter Sports Park, we're not gonna be getting into the weeds on some of these things. This is an overview of the capital improvement plan. And we'll go in from there. It'll come back after it's done with Parks and Rec, it'll come to city council. So we've got plenty of time for that stuff. So right now, let's turn it over to city manager Horn and he will give us an update on the 2026, 2030 to 31 capital improvement plan.
Thank you, Mayor. Just some general housekeeping, similar to what your meetings, how you operate your individual meetings. We can hear you, just your normal conversation voice very well, obviously, but unless your microphone's on, we will not pick it up. The folks that may watch this down the road will not be able to, they'll see your mouth moving, but they won't see anything coming out or hear anything coming out. So we've tested the microphones. They do pick up very well around you. So not everybody has to have a microphone directly in front of you when you're speaking, but like where the mayor's sitting, that picked up just fine with that microphone on when he was talking. So just remember that when you want to speak, make sure your microphone or the microphone around you, closest one to you, is on so we can pick that up on our audio recording. So again, like the mayor said, thank you for the investment of your time this evening. We understand and value and appreciate your time and expertise as we consider these projects. This is something we as staff have been working on for a number of months. And as the mayor said, this is a draft. This is a proposed plan. This is in flux, like most budgets, like most plans are. We can't anticipate any and all things that may happen. We can't anticipate March ice storms to the magnitude that we had this year. We can't anticipate the things like COVID and other things like that. So things shift, things move based on a variety of different circumstances. So we always tell folks, don't get attached to any one particular project, because even when this plan gets approved at city council, there could be times that, again, things happen and I have to go tell staff, hold off on bidding this project right now. It's just not the right time, or things have changed, and let's just hit pause and see how we ride this thing out a little bit. So don't get attached to any one of these projects because again, things could change, but there's value in all of us, I think, listening to what's going on. I've tried to do this wherever I've gone. I think there's value in having a combined session where both bodies can hear the same information at the same time and we get that input. Obviously, this is again a planning tool. It's a management tool. This plan does not appropriate money. That's what the annual operating budget does when we put that together later this fall. So this plan in and of itself doesn't authorize any expenditure of dollars. It just helps us plan out that. So the first year of the CIP, it does appropriate for implementation the first year of the CIP in the operating budget. So we really try to focus our discussions tonight on those first 2 years of this document. This is a 6-year plan. And when you get out there a little ways, you get out to year 3, 4, 5, 6, there's things out there that, again, we're making some pretty good guesses about how things will look and how things may come in from a dollar amount, but things will always be refined. And so we really try to focus and pinpoint those first couple years in this plan because we should have pretty good data for those projects. But as I've told staff as they put this together, we should be always reflecting back on the master plan document. All these projects should line up with a priority or a component within the master plan. So as you go through this and you listen to projects, hopefully you can make that correlation with how that fits in the master plan document, because that's very important on what we're trying to do. We certainly like to be able to address priorities that are within the master plan or within an action plan that city council has approved. So the master plan looks at, community, environmental stewardship, the built environment, the local economy, and land use and zoning. So hopefully you see some of those items within those categories presented this evening. So Act 33 of 2008, the Michigan Planning Enabling Act, that's really what derives this discussion this evening. Talks about, the capital improvement planning and what the responsibilities are of the Planning Commission. And I'm not going to read this to you. You have it in front of you. You planning commissioners probably know this by heart, but this is really the focus of this evening is looking at projects, getting feedback from planning commission members. This will ultimately, and we'll go through the schedule here in a second, but you will see this document at your meeting soon, and then it'll kind of flow from there. But it's important that as we go through this process, as we put projects out in front of you, that you all, planning commission, obviously city council has had an opportunity to chime in, to review if it's appropriate within, the Planning Enabling Act. So there's probably times that maybe we didn't do that so well. And, you take ownership of that and try to improve and move forward. Certainly we want to try to get these projects done as expeditiously as possible. So we try to move in that way. But certainly if the feedback becomes, and as you all know, my direction comes from the 5 folks up here. So if they tell me to pivot and shift and go a different direction, then that's what we do as staff. So certainly, but feedback is very important. Feedback is valued, and we certainly take all of that very seriously. But let's talk a little bit about what CIP is. It helps us coordinate the location, the timing, and the financing. Did that not change? Oh, sorry, I need to tell you that, right?
I'm following.
Sorry, my bad. So CIP helps us coordinate the location, timing, financing of capital improvements over, again, a multi-year period. Some folks do 5 years, some 6, some even longer than that. But we focused our efforts on 6 years. And it's interesting, this year, for the first time, we used a brand new software as staff. And so we evaluated a number of different software programs. We've done it old school for many years, an Excel spreadsheet, and it worked fine. It worked well. But with like anything else, there's value in new technology, new ways of doing things, and we certainly don't want to duplicate re-enter things multiple times. That's very frustrating for us as staff. And so if we can do something once and it shows up in a way that the public can engage, we can engage with the public a little more effectively, that's certainly something we were interested in. So once this document is fully approved, we have a budget book that will be electronic, that'll be on our website, that is very interactive for folks to be able to look at, scroll through. A lot of charting involved, a lot of color coding involved, so people hopefully can follow along with what we're trying to do within this plan. So we're excited about what that'll look like for the public going forward. So capital improvements are major, reoccurring physical expenditures such as land, buildings, public infrastructure, and equipment. CIP assets assist in the implementation of strategic planning efforts, supports priorities, as I mentioned, within the master plan. The way we function is we typically look at capital projects as greater than 3 years of useful life, greater than $25,000 in project costs, or greater than $10,000 of equipment, vehicles, or materials. It always doesn't fit in those boxes nicely, but that's kind of our overall guidelines, if you will. So just some high level numbers, 51.3 million is the 6-year capital improvement plan. Sorry, Sarah, I didn't say it again.
Go.
Next.
No, don't worry about it. Good.
10.4 million in the 2026 capital budget, and 1.8 million boiling down to the general fund capital. And this is going to be an interesting exercise, I think, for really the first time probably in my career that I'm doing something a little different, which I'm a creature of habit and I like routine. My wife always tells me she can time when I get up, what time I'm going to be in the shower, what time I'm shaving. I mean, I'm just a routine guy, so this is a little different for me, and we'll see your feedback and how this is received, but we've got more projects than we have funding for, and that's just the bottom line. Is there's more things that we feel are priorities or needs than we have the ability to fund. So typically what I would do is I would narrow this down and bring this down to a point where we somewhat balanced with revenue coming in. I didn't do that this time. I wanted really to get some feedback on some priorities to assist in that effort. Certainly, I'm not shying away from my responsibility. I'm certainly capable and willing to get this thing down to where it needs to be, and we will do that. Bottom line, we will certainly do that, but I think there's value in getting your feedback to help us guide that process. So 1.8 million, we can't support 1.8 million out of the general fund in next year. That's the bottom line. If you look in your binder, Audrey went through an analysis of what revenue we do have available for the general fund. I think there's street fund and what is it, Tifa in there as well. So there's some spreadsheets in there. We have a little bit in the past few years, we dipped into, we've planned use or our cash reserves to the tune of $100,000 to support general fund capital. We're dipping in a little bit deeper in 26. Again, this is proposed. I'm not saying this is what we're going to do. That's ultimately City Council's decision. But so dipping in a little bit deeper with a planned use of cash reserves to the tune of $500,000. So right around $1 million is where we're at from a budget for general fund for 2026. So again, we're currently at 1.8. So we've got some work to do. We've got some different ways we can strategize to whether it's phasing a few projects over the course of a few years to get us down to where we need to be, or maneuvering items within the plan itself. So this will be a little bit of a new exercise for me on how we go through that process. But that's the reason why we have all of you as subject matter experts to assist in that process. In 2026, there's 1.3 million anticipated for grants. $900,000 for the winter sports park, $150,000 for the marina Pier B upgrades, and $300,000 for water. That's the lead and copper materials inventory that we've been going through for the last few years. So our schedule, from a staff standpoint, we've been working on this. Worksheets went out to department heads before Memorial Day. And we've been working through this schedule. Department heads have been submitting worksheets back to us, back to finance. We've posted the proposed plan on our website for review and comments on August 5th. So there's a dedicated email that folks can submit comments to the draft plan. And that was posted again on August 5th. That'll remain up until, I believe we put a deadline of September 10th was the deadline, because hopefully the September 15th meeting, we would have this in front of council, city council for the first time. So we need to get comments kind of buttoned up by then. Again, August 12th, today, we're having our combined session. I would hope to put this forward on the Planning Commission's agenda for your next meeting next week in August. And then city council does not meet on the first meeting in September. So that first or the second meeting in September, which is the 15th, it would be on for city council review and consideration. So again, focusing on 26 and the way your binder is organized, again, the first couple are some revenue projections. As we get into the table of contents, each year is its own section of the binder. The first page should be typically an overview of that year. So it gives you a listing of projects within that year. And then as you drive down into the respective years, there's a little more description. I really wanted to try to focus on one page for one project, but I didn't want to be wasteful with our natural resources either. So we kind of minimized our waste of paper and sometimes we had two projects on a page, but that hopefully will give you a little bit of background as you're flipping through, and you can go back and forth and see what that project entails from a description. There's a justification section in there. So I've asked staff to really drive back to the master plan and address why this project is justified to be in this plan. And then, breaking down the budget for that particular item as well. And then the back end of the binder, we call it, because we had to give it a number in this new software plan, we had to give it a number. So the CIP is for the years 2026 to 2031. So we had to give it a number, so we called it 2032, which is typically, if you all have done this before, it's the projects that are lacking funding. These are projects that we think are projects that we need to consider, but we haven't locked down funding for it as of yet. So these are still things that will likely move into the CIP in subsequent years coming forward. But as it stands right now, those projects, we have not locked down funding, and they're still in the plan, but they're in the back end of the document. So this chart just shows kind of where our funding sources are coming from, and to no surprise, it's the enterprise funds. And just a little budget primer: enterprise funds are user fees, water, sewer, electric. They're not, when you pay your taxes, they're not going to those entities, to those funds. So these are user fee-based budget. So as you can imagine, we're doing a lot of infrastructure work and have done a lot of infrastructure work over many years, which is, again, a credit to Planning Commission, a credit to City Council for seeing that as a priority. So the electric fund, the water and sewer fund, that's almost 45% of our capital budget in 26 is focused on enterprise funding projects. You can see where general fund comes in as well, and the other funds as well. So you can kind of get that breakdown in this chart. Just another way to show the breakdown of expenditures from a parking standpoint. The general fund, where we're at again, 1.8, that will not, when this budget is is finalized, that will not be the number we use. Again, unless funds come up here somehow from Lansing that we're not anticipating, but we certainly want to be responsive and responsible for our budget. So that number will likely go down. And then motor pool, that's really kind of that sweet spot that we spend each year, right around that amount of money. It's important that we don't continue to let vehicles and equipment just degrade. We need to obviously cycle these forward and continue to upgrade our equipment. When things like the ice storm happens, we want to make sure generators are in good shape, and we ran our generators very hard during the course of that 4 or 5 day period. So we want to have equipment that's very well serviced, very well top notch, and we've made that a priority. Electric fund, you're going to see a very high number there. That likely also will be subject to further conversation. And again, like as the mayor said, this is really not the forum, if you will, to lock down a project like Winter Sports Park and how we're going to fund that. I will just say Winter Sports Park will be going out for bid, both the pavilion and the surface area, any day now. So I was hoping to have numbers for you for this meeting, and unfortunately we didn't make that, but we'll have numbers here shortly. That's when we'll come back to city council. We'll do some value engineering. We'll kind of know what we can afford to do. Just like you have a budget at home, we all have great ideas of what we'd like to do, and then we get quotes back and like, well, we're gonna have to peel that back or push that another year. Or similar here, we're gonna have to make some decisions once we get quotes, once we get bids back, and can we afford to put the chiller in? Do we need to kick that down the road? Or the critical thing about the chiller is we have kind of one time to do it. Either you do it now or you don't do it, because once you put the new surface in, you're not going to do it again. So that's just a overview of that discussion that we're going to need to have at some point. But initially we talked conceptually about a intergovernmental loan, which we've done before. We assisted building Public Safety West through an intergovernmental loan from the electric fund to the general fund. We talked conceptually about that with city council. So that number includes a $1.3 million loan. May not happen, but we needed to actually show that in the budget. It likely will work out a different funding mechanism potentially, but that number does include that level of a loan in the electric fund. So again, that's something that we'll fully vet out once we get the numbers back from once we get the bids back, and we'll have that conversation going forward. But so a lot more discussion to happen on Winter Sports Park here shortly. Water and sewer fund, you can see the level of investment there. Typically similar to streets, it's kind of an on-off scenario where we were very heavy this year with our street work with Howard. I think between water, sewer, streets, and electric, it was 3 million-ish total, 3.5. So we can't do that every year, right? So next year will be a little bit of a down year. We'll take a little breath there and both of those, and ramp back up for the next reconstruct project. So there's a lot that goes into streets, and whether it's the PACER ratings that we talk about sometimes at a very high level. But there's a lot of things we don't talk about. Is it's not just simply milling and resurfacing a street. A lot of times we need to look at the infrastructure underground. And so adding that to the project really escalates the cost, so that you have to weigh all that out from when does a street make sense to reconstruct or just to mill and resurface. So there's a lot of art and science to that Jason will talk about. And then we talked about grants at about 1.3 million. So what you're going to see here tonight is that we'll go through a number of slides. Department heads will come up and talk about their respective areas of within their jurisdiction. So this is a very low-key discussion. Feel free to raise your hand. Feel free to get up and get some food, use the facilities, but this is not an overly formal discussion. I want you to be able to interact with staff as they're presenting as well. So the first person up is Kendall. He's going to talk building and grounds. That's a budget under his jurisdiction. Then he'll obviously talk about parks and special facilities as well. But we'll first talk about building and grounds. And as I'm looking over at Amy, when is your time when do you need to leave? Okay. All right.
Get that out loud.
Okay. Just say, I didn't do this well, but just say next when you slide because Sarah needs to be able to. Sorry.
Okay, well, again, thank you for coming here tonight on a beautiful summer evening. So we will try to get through these as quickly as possible. So the first items we have in the building and grounds is the City Hall elevator upgrades. Now, this was something that in 2023, the Michigan updated their elevator code. And wasn't made aware of this until this year, that our elevator is completely obsolete. It was installed in the 90s and it still has all of the original motor and hydraulic parts. So for us to be compliant, we are going to need to upgrade the motor, the hydraulics. The motor comes with door sensors and it's much more technology, much more advanced than what we have now. So that's a project that kind of took us by surprise a little bit, but it's one that we have to do to be compliant. City Hall security upgrades, phase 2. Right now, we're going through an upgrade to get card strikes at our main entrances, the front door, staff basement door, and public safety entrance. And there's a desire to, particularly on the public safety side, a lot of internal doors for access. It really allows staff to control who gets to go where. We've had instances where staff have left, on a Friday and without warning, and so we have to get somebody in and recode the buildings. And this is and with everything going on, I think it's a smart move for us to continue evaluating security upgrades, not only in City Hall, but throughout our city buildings. The next item is the East Lake Street Fire Station renovations, which includes public safety, kitchen redo. Look, these guys spend a lot of time there. It's a 365, 7-day a week operation. The kitchen that we have there now is I believe the original kitchen, so it's 36 years old. There haven't really been any upgrades. The appliances need to be upgraded. We're planning on getting a designer to come in and just kind of help us with the flow, help us with the design. We think it could be a more efficient space. And from a recruiting standpoint, it's difficult to get public safety officers up here. So we feel like that's an important investment to make with our public safety building. Brock, is there anything else you want to add?
I'll just hit on that real quick.
That area, I mean, that's one of the only major projects that public safety has this year is that kitchen. And I know we've pushed it down the road a few years now. I was 14 when that was originally put in there. I've had our public safety officers, speaking from experience, we have birthdays there, kids' birthdays there. We have holidays that we spend there with and have families come in for meals and things like that. It's just not your normal, we should have a microwave type of setup. It is really helpful for officers to come in, kind of have that decompression time. If we have an incident, we can get in and talk about it, and that's where it takes place, in the kitchen, when we have something to eat. So that's a very important project for me that I'd like to see kind of pushed over the edge, but that's my pitch for you. Thanks.
Kendall, I have a question.
Yeah.
About the security upgrades phase 2. So we had gotten $100,000 ARPA with a match between ourselves and Emmett County. And I know part of that was for the audio visual that we are currently enjoying. But it was my understanding a portion of that was for security as well. So I don't know if this question's for you or Shane or Audrey, but I'm just curious, like, what was that used for? That we still need the 50,000 for this additional upgrade. Thank you.
So what we had left from the original ARPA grant, we applied toward this first phase, which is the front doors, the basement staff door, and the main public safety garage area. So internally, there are a lot of doors, particularly in the public safety side, where we need to have extra security. Evidence room, is one, but so that's the next projected phase of this. Again, if we would like to start looking at other buildings. So if we're able to expand to another, to buildings, with that $50,000, perhaps that would be considered as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead.
Can I piggyback on that same question? Because I had the same question. Does that mean that the 100K from ARPA funds have already been expended as it relates to the audiovisual stuff and any security upgrades?
Yes, that one will be spent. We still have some left on the winter sport park that we need to discuss.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so here are just some pictures of, the picture on the left is the mechanical room. Again, those blue, what was that, me?
You need to click your.
Oh, okay, I got it. Should do a run through. So the blue boxes are the hydraulic and the mechanical portion of it. So again, those were 1990. Parts aren't even available anymore. So it's an issue that we are going to have to address.
I'm good. I'm fine.
There are just some pictures of the upstairs kitchen and the bathroom. As you can see, it's dated, it's worn. And again, we think we can make some efficiency improvements by getting a designer in there. Okay, so this is the 2027. That's how we're doing the buildings and grounds 2027. So we've made some great strides with our fire stations. If you recall, last year we did the vehicle exhaust extraction system, which is fantastic. We had to take care of the health of our officers. We replaced our heating elements in the Lake Street Fire Station. We're going to get the inside of it painted this year. So really, we've invested a lot in modernizing that building. Again, making it safe for our officers. And so the next step, what we are proposing doing is applying epoxy to the floor. It'll seal the cracks. as part of the prep for this project, it's diamond sanded down, so you can address any of the deficiencies that the floor has. I mean, those are the original floors. With the vehicle exhaust system, we don't have so much chemical deposits in there anymore. So we should be able to take care of that building for the the next 30 years. So on the main, what, do we have a question? Yeah. Oh, there's a picture of the conditions of the floor. And again, those are worn down, they're slippery. But again, if we can get that cleaned up, we're not dealing so much with the chemical deposits from the exhaust system. And, you can see that it has some rust spots and some minor flaws in it.
I know, hit pause for a minute. Amy, why don't you come up before you need to go? We'll pick up yours at your part.
Where am I at here?
Brief one. Let's see.
Okay. This will just be brief. For the parking fund next year, we're doing another lot. This year, we did renovations to the Seville lot. We're doing similar renovations planned next year for the Park Garden lot, which is the lot next to City Park Grill. It's a lot about the same size, but is in pretty bad shape. So here's pictures of the pavement conditions, a lot of alligatoring. There's also infrastructure as part of this. You'll see some of the existing stormwater outlets, and Jason can talk more specific to the infrastructure. But this is a lot that'll be completely redone. We already have a pay station at this lot. We did that this year. So that will continue to be there. We believe we'll keep about the same number of parking spaces, and then all the landscaping along Lake Street will also be replaced. And then I'll just turn it over to Jason for more specifics on infrastructure.
So with all projects that involve stormwater, we want to be good stewards to the bay and the river. So we're going to do, we did this in the Seville lot. We incorporated some underground storage retention, so it allowed for some infiltration. We're going to do the same here with this lot. So in between the existing catch basins, those will stay roughly the same, but then we'll incorporate some ability for the groundwater to recharge through that parking lot.
Just a larger general question about that lot and the county-owned lots further up the hill. Has there been any further discussion with the county regarding, ramping that whole corner?
Like a structure?
Yes.
Yes, there was no interest.
And the county's getting ready to redo that lot in the next month and put like the arms or the needles, I guess, in there.
Yeah, they're planning to start their project in September and work through the fall here on that.
It's really too bad that both entities are going to plow a bunch of money into that corner and not take advantage of what could happen there.
I feel that.
It isn't the city's fault though. This isn't moving forward. The city's wide open.
Yeah, I'm not trying to point any fingers, but it's just unfortunate that
Yeah.
that opportunity is going to be missed again for the next 20 years.
Leadership.
All set?
Back to Kendall. Thank you for bringing that up.
It's ridiculous. Leadership is done.
Sure. There you go. Thanks.
Yeah,
Okay, so we'll we'll jump over to Parks and Special Facilities. Shane, I think, did a good job addressing the winter sports park. That's kind of been hanging around here for a few years, and it's certainly nice to get that done. I understand it's expensive and, but it's certainly a project worth fighting for. And, I would just, like to see us have some more discussions regarding ways that we can get that project off the ground, and likely here in a month or so, we'll have some things to work with regarding numbers. The Riverbend skateboard equipment replacement. Many of you, when we went on our parks tour, have seen the condition of that up close and personal. The current condition of a few of those pieces of equipment will not be there next year. So we need to, we do have a grant for the recreation passport. I'm not confident we're going to get it. So this is a project that may require a little bit more discussion in terms of getting replacement pieces, but we can certainly build what we can afford, because anything there new is better than the equipment that we have there currently.
That do a full replacement, is that a full replacement of what's there now with 350?
300 would. 200 would still be an improvement. Okay, so being that it's a fixed space, there's only so much that we can put in there. So there will be design options. I've learned probably more than I ever thought I would about skate park design and what's cool. And believe it or not, I don't do that. So that will be a work in progress, but.
Do you have any data on what the utilization of the skate park is?
Unfortunately, I don't, other than what I see with my own eyes. I mean, we're out there a lot as staff. It is a popular amenity. It's not an amenity that every person in town is going to use, but it is an important element to that park. There is a strong contingent, and you'd be surprised that there are some individuals who are, late 20s and 30s that go out there and with their skateboards and bikes, and they bring their families out there. So it plays an important role, particularly to that, in that area. The other thing is the Lofts at Lumber Square. Is that the one that's going to? I'm sorry, Maple Block. That park is going to play a big role in the quality of life of that development. So I think it's important that we, that we keep an eye on the investment in that park.
That's the only place that scooters and skateboards are technically allowed in the city.
Correct. So our Marina Pier upgrades, we have, prior to me starting, there was a decking project on Pier B that, as soon as they started taking boards off, the county indicated that we had to update the B Pier to the 2017 NEC electric code. Unfortunately, how it was done was not, it perhaps wasn't done to the degree that it should be. When we redid the A, C, and D dock, for example, we have 54 slips on B Pier, and we have 3 breakers. Okay, so if those breakers leak 100 milliamps, which boats are prone to leak in electric current, 17 boats go down, which causes our staff then to have to decipher which boat's the problem, which fuse is the problem on boats. So So it's an issue that we really need to, address. The marina funds pay for that. It's still a general fund. It's not an enterprise fund, but they're dedicated, funds in the general fund that can only be spent at the marina. There are state fund, the Waterways Commission, which we have had quite a bit of success with, historically, is a grant opportunity for cost sharing on that project. In addition, I would also like to replace the boards. A lot of those boards on BEEP here have well exceeded their life. We spend a lot of time as staff replacing boards that are rotted and warped, and so it's a quality upgrade that I feel is important for our staff, as well as the boaters. The wheelway slope restoration, we're going through the big one now, which we're hoping to have a presentation to City Council in September as kind of a wrap up regarding the original slope failure area. We all know it's no secret, it's expensive, it's complicated. And so we put money in here to keep moving forward with potential designs, perhaps off the road behind Epler Curve. Those seems to be the pinch points that we struggle with when we go up on top. So we did put propose to put some money in there for additional progress for that area. The wheelway resurfacing and the public art are two perpetual installations with our capital needs assessment. Certainly the wheelway, we want to keep, it's like painting a bridge, right? When we get done repaving everything, we'll likely have to start over, but it's important for us to try to stay on top of that. And again, public art, these are just projects that we will continue to do in the community. So Sarah, next.
I have a question.
Yes.
So going back to the line items on the budget, what is the slope,
Oops.
restoration, plantings as identified in the Baird study? Thank you.
The slope, this one,
Restoration, yeah.
that is separate from the Baird study. So that is, depending on the decision of council in the direction that we move, are we going to try to move forward with restoration of the existing slope based on the Baird proposal and their engineered drawings? Or are we going to look at a different avenue? So this is that different avenue.
Because $100,000 would cover like the restoration of the slope with plantings maybe, but that doesn't include like a proposal to keep the bike path in the place where it is.
Correct.
So the slope restoration is specifically, what is that? Is that plantings to restore?
No, it perhaps is worded, the slope restoration that's what we call that project. So regardless if the trail is up on the bluff or if it's down where it is, it's still that slope restoration. So this is, and I hear what you're saying, and it may be semantics, but this is not, well, maybe it could be to address the slope. I guess we don't know. This is a different path if we decide to go that route.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, so there are some updated pictures of the Winter Sports Park. Those are some, the condition of the skate park equipment out at Riverbend. These were taken very recent, so. For next. Drivers resurfacing. Okay, next. So these are 2027. Again, Public Art and Little Travers Way, resurfacing. Our mineral well gazebo is across the street, is in pretty rough shape. We are, this is a number that, as with a lot of these, we're taking out of our capital needs assessment. So that mineral well gazebo, the roof is failing, the soffits there's a lot of wood rot. So that's a pavilion that we want to basically restore. It gets used a lot. It's a focal point of the park. And, we need to do a better job of trying to make that look better. So that's what that is. Winter Sports Park Lodge, siding, I'm suggesting siding. The cedar on that is on the Winter Sports Park Lodge now is in bad shape, as is the deck. So my suggestion would be to consider perhaps siding that with a siding that matches the character of the park and the character of the building. There will be quite a bit of work to do to protect that cedar. If we decide we want to go back with the wood, we can do that too. But that, I did put that in there as a siding element. The high school tennis court restroom is restroom between the tennis courts and the girls softball field. That is a city building. The high school is footing the construction bill for, what do we have, eight pickleball courts and I believe 6 tennis courts out of their sinking fund. And that high school, the restrooms and the concession stand there, structurally they're in pretty good shape, but it needs a facelift. It needs a new interior for the concession stand. It could be a teen change room. So that's a project that would really, we'd like to get that to match the improvements that the school did up there. And Greenway Corridor expansion design, right now we are doing Emmett to Washington is we're putting plans together to expand the corridor from Emmett to Washington behind yeah, the other one. So we'd like to.
Copy Express along there.
Yes.
Yep. And so this would pick it up from Washington to share. This is just engineer drawings and plans.
I have a question about that one. So you would need to we'd have to buy the rights from MDOT, but that also goes through a private development at Sheridan. Between Washington and Sheridan, it would go into the former Continental Plastics building in between 2 buildings. So how would the city get the right of ways from MDOT for that acquisition in order to do the expansion and design?
We haven't got that far yet because we don't, well, that's 2 years. Where's this 2027? We did talk at one point about if the city couldn't purchase those rails to do the path along in the right of way of Baxter, which would then take you out to Sheridan. So in the event that we couldn't get the rails purchased.
Okay.
So. Okay. Yes, sir.
Steve Sullivan. Isn't in the most recent or prior version of the capital improvement plan, isn't the children's garden at Arlington Park included for 2027?
It is in these next 6 years, it's in 2028.
11 years from the start and the planning that where the city promised garden club. After the Lewis Street reconstruction was done, that we could have a garden revision at Arlington Park. And the city's planner, Tim Newsom, did that plan for us. And it is in the capital plan for 2027. And
It seems like you keep pushing it out a year instead of making it a commitment.
Well,
I'd like to have everyone here aware that 10 years have gone into this plan. And the city doesn't seem to be taking it seriously. When is it gonna be done?
well, I will say that a lot of plans get pushed. Washington Park gets pushed, Lockwood Park gets pushed. I mean, we have a lot of projects that we can only build what we can afford.
Right, what can you do to move it up into the present instead of continuing to push it off into the future?
I'm wondering also about the $60,000 for city art. If we did the garden club's plan, it includes a great deal of art and it. We also have made a commitment to the O'Dellwood Tribe, working with them to bring this into being. I'm not sure, even as an artist myself, that this $60,000 of public art is crucial. I think this garden is.
Mayor Murphy, council people, when you meet, please hear us. The Children's Garden for the city of Petoskey's been designed, developed, planned, introduced. The city has accepted it as a priority, but it keeps getting pushed off. Let's bring it into the now.
I think it's.
You guys can do it. You can do it. You can do it with a vote and say, let's make it a priority. Instead of perhaps $2.9 million for the winter sports park. For lighting, snowmaking, whatever. Let's think that through, people. Let's come up with something that's good for everybody, good for visitors. Not just 20 or 30 people that might do the new Roto or T-bar or whatever. You've got a plan.
You're gonna have, there's gonna be a lot of parties.
It's $800,000 and you can get it done. You can get it done. You can allocate funds for this.
Well, as we said in the beginning, this is just a run through.
Yeah, it's a run.
Things change.
When you hear the bureaucraties, it sounds like, yeah, well, and then maybe. Let's make a commitment and mayor and council people, you can have a vote and say, let's do it and not put it off.
All right, next picture. So these are some pictures of the Mineral Well gazebo. You can see that it's, does have a lot of rot on it. It does need some attention. Okay, next one. Winter Sports Park siding. There again, there are just some, see how it's faded. There are areas in it that we need to address. So perhaps siding is an option for that. Next one, please.
You're in Tifa?
Yep. So, Tifa is, it's a little different of a fund. It's a fund that can only be used essentially along the bay front and Bear River Valley. So this year we did, at the Arboretum area, which is at the end of by the turnaround bathrooms. We expanded that, we widened that trail, we made that concrete trail. Turned out fantastic. We did take it off the water a little bit. to when the water gets high again, we will likely not be in the position that we were last time with some of the erosion. So this phase is going to address, if you're familiar with that boardwalk, kind of between the Lime Kiln Pond and that other pond, ever since we've had high water, that has, for whatever reason, that pond doesn't jive with the lake water levels. So when the water got high in 18, 19, and 20, it hasn't receded, that pond hasn't receded like the lake. So that bridge is perpetually underwater. It's not accessible, the stairs, and I'll show you a picture here soon, but it's not accessible to get to the bridge. So, our focus is gonna be on trying to get that improved, replaced. There is an old performance area down there that has, I don't believe, ever been used. So we would like to just pretty that end up with some natural planting, some more trees, clean up some of the storm damage. There's a willow that's fallen into that little basin. So this is going to focus on some of the infrastructure that needs to be replaced, as well as some landscaping enhancements. And then there is a dog park process that we're going through, again, with TIFA funds. This is going to be located in the off the trailhead behind DPW on the Bear River Valley. If you walk north towards City Hall, there is a meadow area that is away from houses. It's walkable. It'd be a nice little local dog park. So this is something that we've been working on for quite some time. It's taken different iterations, and so those are the proposed for 2026. Next slide, Sarah. Thank you. You can see there's the condition of the footbridge, that the path that's actually. Huh? Oh, all right. So that's the yep. So that's the. It looks like a path, but those are actually steps. They're just not in good shape. And again, that water and the edge. When I took this picture, that end of that bridge was underwater. So into the picture to the right is that willow that is fallen into that basin there. Okay, next. So this was our proposed dog park. I'll do it again. All right. It's a lot of glare in here, Shane.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know. Brackets are on order. So this is the condition. This is the dog park that we had discussed, and the location there. Okay, next, please.
There.
All right.
Sarah didn't get to speak at this, so she gets it's an opportunity. Come on down.
Does this not go lower? Is that better? Yeah, okay. For those that don't know me, I'm Sarah Beck. I'm the city clerk. You see me up at council meetings, and Shane is right, I don't speak very often. So I'm here this evening to talk about voting. We typically don't see this type of item in a capital improvement plan. However, there's no funding right now. So it meets that threshold of that $25,000 or more. So a little bit of background, the city has 7 pieces of voting equipment. So that's 5 tabulators for our 4 wards and our AV counting board, along with 2 voting assist terminals. So we have 7 pieces of equipment currently. I am in the process of working on consolidating precincts. So, which means we'll still be nearly equal, all 4 wards. However, combining wards 1 and 3, and then combining 2 and 4,
and then having Navy Accounting Board. So it'll be a better, more efficient, effective use of funds with less equipment, less supplies, and less workers on election day. However, it is in the process and it will come before our election commission, and then also ultimately city council will have to approve. And then so Bureau of Elections informed local jurisdictions. We had our annual conference back in June and indicated that our current voting equipment is nearly at the end of its life and will need to be replaced to meet all standards. And the most important is the security standards. So that is the utmost importance of why we need new equipment. So the current state contract does expire with our vendors February 28th of 2027. So right now, the state has been vetting RFPs. The contracts are going to go out, has asked local jurisdictions for input. And we are anticipated that voting equipment will be purchased by the end of 2026. It could be split. Some may be purchased in 26. Some may be at the beginning of 27, but that's unknown at this point. And we're estimating $15,000 per precinct/ward. And we have 4, but plus our AV counting board that counts only our absentee ballots. And currently there's no grant funding. So the Bureau is working on state or federal funding, along with myself, keeping in contact with any grants that may be available. I will note that it was about 8 to 10 years ago, the previous city clerk purchased and was working with this project. I believe as it was in 2017, I could be off a year or so. That voting equipment was fully funded by the state. So the city did not pay for any voting equipment. I think prior to that, it was federal funds. So again, we are working on that, but it's not a guarantee, so. Oh, pictures. Oh, now I see, you guys can't see, but you can see on the screen. So on your left is the DS200, or maybe it's the right. Is it mimicking this? Yeah.
Correct.
So that's your tabulator that all ballots are counted and processed through. The voter assist terminal or express vote is on your right, and that's for anyone to use, but also people that may need assistance for hearing or visually impaired, or if any of you voted early voting, that's what the county did primarily vote on. So thank you, Shane.
Sarah, just a quick question, point of clarification. Did you say consolidation of precincts or consolidation of wards?
I said both because they're kind of interchangeable, but in reality, we use wards, and per charter, we have to be nearly equal, which we are. Ward 4 is going to be very large here once the 2 housing developments are completed. Ward 3 is also very large. They're our largest because they do include Bay Harbor. At the state level, yes, precincts, and the way the state and we work is it is a ward. So right now, if you think about it, we have 5 precincts at the voting hall. So each ward, Ward 1 is precinct 1, Ward 2 is precinct 2, Ward 3 is precinct 3. So you can have, I believe it is up to 6 precincts in one voting location. So I am consolidating where we, you voters for the city, change the charter where wards 1 and 3 for council members fall in the same year. So 1 and 3 would be combined as precinct 1. And then wards 2 and 4 would be combined for precinct 2. And then our AV counting board would be the 3rd precinct. So everyone would still have their same Ward 1 ballot, Ward 2 ballot, 3 ballot, 4 ballot, just multiple ballot styles at the table. So instead of if you're walking on election day, instead of seeing 4 tables set up, you would see 2. So it'd be less workers, maybe not less workers because we still have the same amount and we have, split shifts, but it definitely would be less equipment. So it would, and supplies.
So my follow-up question is, what would be the impact on lines waiting?
Yep, so that's something we're looking at. Again, until we get more into the early voting that just started, we are seeing, so we have about 5,000 registered voters in the city, and we have about 1,250 permanent absentee ballots that everyone gets mailed because they've signed up. So that number continuously increases. Early voting, that number I would imagine will continuously increase as well. And I anticipate on election day, less walking through the door. But that data, it's only been a full year since that all has kind of transpired.
Thank you.
I'll just advance this. Amy's done. So, there you go.
All right, so we'll move on to streets and drainage. So coming off 2025 here with our major reconstruct, we're gonna do a little lighter year on 26. 26 includes a Howard Street segment, again, from East Mitchell to Michigan Street. One of the reasons why we chose this project is because of the Pennies project. This project includes some sidewalk revamping there. It's really poor shape. The tracks will come out. We kind of started that project earlier this year because in our routine sewer maintenance, we found a potential concern. And so we addressed it with the sanitary sewer. In doing so, we had to remove the tracks on Howard Street. But the tracks still remain in the Mitchell-Howard Street intersection plaza and then crossing Mitchell. So we'd like to clean that up with this project. The last few winters have really degraded the brick and the concrete intersection at Howard Street and Mitchell. So this 605,000 includes reconstruction of that intersection. You'll see some photos when I show them here. It's in really poor shape. Our maintenance crews continually have to add more cold patch to it to keep potholes at bay.
A question on that before you go on to the next one. Is the planter box being reshaped or redesigned at all?
We are in design and discussions with folks that has not been determined yet. The plan is to stay with the bricks to match the rest of the downtown decor. I've talked to Shane about this. We would like to enter into kind of an biannual maintenance plan with our bricks to seal them. Brick contractors that work for us have told us that if we seal those, it'll enhance the color and also keep the salts out of it. We've pulled up the bricks, not in that intersection, but the bricks in the sidewalks in the downtown area are original bricks. We've replaced some areas, but most of them are original from the mid 90s when we redid the downtown. Some of those areas that see excessive salt, we've pulled up some of those bricks and there's nothing left on the bottom of them. So sealing will definitely help that.
Just a follow-up question on my earlier one.
Yeah.
Who is it that's going to be making the decision on the design of that area and when will that be done?
We are entering into the initial design stages right now and initial discussions. So city, Amy Tweeten, parking, we've got some consultants looking at that, Public Works, city manager. So hopefully by fall, we'd like to bid this late fall, early winter, or construction in early spring. The next line is miscellaneous pavement or street preservation, 100,000. We have quite a few alleyways that are paved and streets that have poor drainage. So our intent with this line item is to correct poor pavement and drainage areas in town, kind of citywide. And as we work through the winter, our list will kind of grow based on what we see throughout this upcoming winter. Sidewalk repair in East Mitchell, so the 210,000 is tied to the Howard Street project there. Miscellaneous sidewalk and construction and replacement. So this year we are doing a sidewalk assessment, looking at trip hazards, cracked areas where tree roots have pushed up sidewalks. And next year we'd like to go citywide and do some kind of maintenance, major repairs on sidewalks to help maintain the walkability of the town. Next, Sarah.
That's correct.
This is the photo I alluded to with the Howard Street intersection. As you see in the lower left there, there's some patching next to the bricks. So every year this continues to grow. Next, Sarah. These are the photos. First photo on the left there is Howard Street. Those tracks are now removed, but then the next couple photos are the concrete sidewalk plaza area next to the planter. And then Mitchell Street. So those tracks will come out, and the signing that indicates the crossings will also come out with those. All right, so let's move to 2027. This will be a major reconstruct year. Bay Street, Rose Street area. This project was larger at one point. We had to scale it back slightly based on current estimates. In the last 5 years, construction costs have drastically increased. Concrete, paving, and then the underground utilities associated with this reconstruct. So the idea with this is the hills, as you see in some photos I have, some of our poorer conditioned streets are alligated really bad. And with the rain events we've had recently, actually our mild winters have actually caused our streets to degrade in a faster way than I say a normal northern Michigan winter. So we've noticed with the heavier rains that the asphalt is starting to unravel and erode down the street. Our streets with such as the Bay Street, Rose Street, we've put in quite a bit of maintenance into keeping that together. The next two line items there are Standish Avenue and Atkins Street reconstruction, or not Atkins Street. They are Little Traverse Bay Band grant projects. So with these projects are tied with sidewalk and then curb, sidewalk removal replacements, and then new pavement. The fourth line there, sidewalk replacement. So this is tied to the Rose Bay Street area. So that project would again be a total reconstruct, which includes typically all of our sidewalks, drive approaches, new curb and gutter. On the last there, new sidewalk installation along Standish. That's tied to the Standish Street project as I talked about.
Question.
Yes.
Question.
Yep.
With this sidewalk installation on the Standish Avenue, is that not a responsibility of the developer?
This would be on the opposite side of the street where there's currently no sidewalk. So along where
All of those,
the businesses. Yep. Yes. Yes. Now these two projects, the Standish and the Atkins, are tied to tribe grants. We also had a tribe grant scheduled in 26. They reallocated funds and pulled that project from us. They told us we could leave these in our plan, but there's a chance that they could get pulled again as they reallocate funds.
Jason, with Bay and Rose Streets, is that when Shane talked about the PACER ratings and you making decisions on which projects to prioritize, is it mostly the PACER ratings that's driving this one? Is it also the water infrastructure combination? And as I talk with Ward 2 residents who look at something like Wakazu, who the photos on the surface look pretty bad too, as we're driving up Wakazu now with Howard Street reconstructed. What's the decision matrix you're going forward with this?
Yeah, so a lot of things go into this. You talked about PACER. Yes, PACER, that street's probably, without seeing the map in front of me, it's probably rated at a 2, which is poor reconstruct type project. Not sure what Wakazu's at right now. I know leading up to this year, Wakazu has always been a little better in condition. I agree, it is taking its toll on that street. PACER ratings, just so y'all know, do not rate ride quality. So you drive down Wakazu Street and it is bumpy. But PACER doesn't look at that. It looks at the pavement distress just on the street surface alone. Bay and Rose Street also includes a complete water sewer, so we have undersized water and sewer there. Not sure the age on the water up there, but the water is old and tied to our lead and copper. We know that that whole hill has a lot of potentially lead service lines. When we did the Lake Street project, so this is gonna be similar in scope. I don't remember the number, but we had a handful, maybe a dozen homes where we had to replace lead service lines.
Thank you.
We'll be able to do that for 430,000.
430,000 is sidewalks. Yep. 1.65 is streets, so that would include curb and gutter, drive approaches, and storm sewer, and then new pavement. I'll get to water and sewer, so there's gonna be some water and sewer numbers on top of this. Nope.
Major the last time.
Any other questions on 27 before I move into some photos? All right, next, Sarah. So this is Bay Street, looking up the hill. I think I'm standing at Division. So you'll look at the right curb line there, you'll notice a lot of patch, the darker asphalt is patches. And so the last couple of winters, we've noticed those chunks ending up in Division Street by the courthouse. All right, let's go to electric next. So 2026. First on our list is advanced metering infrastructure. So this would be phase one of what we're proposing to be a 3-phase project. Phase 2 and 3 are in our project's lack of funding. So right now we are currently in rate study for electric, water and sewer. And when that gets hashed out and approved, hopefully that'll fund the phase 2, phase 3. So this initial phase, phase 1, would be implementation of meters. So these meters would be both on water and wastewater, electric and water. So with advanced metering infrastructure, it's going to help us create a more resilient grid, bring us up technologically, and provide software that will provide us with time of use on our energy sales, automatic meter reading, and remote disconnects, reconnects, and outage detections. Along with this will help the utility and customers manage and view what we call distributed energy resources. So your solar, type projects as they tie to the grid. And so we could see real time what that's doing. And with that, when I say advancing our grid, we'll be able to more real time look at energy usage, especially if we see more EV charging stations go in. Where is that? What time of day is that energy being pulled? Where? How's that impacting transformers? And then, potentially it could impact size of wire and the distribution system.
Question?
Yes.
The benefits sound outstanding. Has there been a cost benefit analysis done that shows what kind of return there will be on investment in the advanced metering for either the electric or the water?
I don't know you. I don't know if you know me. I'm new to this position, so
I'm new too.
I'm
We're together.
I don't know. I'd have to look back through the binder and get you the answer on that.
Okay.
This has been being discussed for probably 4 years now. I'm sure there's been a lot of discussion on, the cost benefits and all that. I don't have that in front of me. Any other questions on that?
Typically, as meters age, they underreport, so we lose revenue, whether it's electric or water, losing revenue with aging meters. So what that ROI is, I guess, remains to be seen, but we can certainly pinpoint that we're losing sales based on old technology.
And I just like have a broad category question because I know virtually nothing about this. I'll just interject it at this point.
Mhm.
So has there been any kind of after action look at the storm that we had in March to see if there are any things that are scheduled down the road or that we should reconsider pushing up because of what happened there, like the learning that we had?
Yes,
That was a.
definitely, yes. And I was gonna get to that with some of our projects.
Thank you.
So we did reevaluate the entire, say, looking at last year's capital plan, we looked at all of our projects and then restructured projects. It was difficult to make it fit the budgets that Audrey gave me, but yes, we did do that. So I'll get into some details on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
If there's no other questions on the AMI, I'm gonna move on to the 46 kV metering station. So this is a metering station that sits on River Road, just past Spoon Foods. It's a metering station from consumers transmission to our distribution line. So this particular facility is 50+ years old, so it's seen its lifespan. And so before it starts to fail on us, this is a replacement of that. Basically, this is pretty critical infrastructure. If it goes down, we do lose a portion of the town.
Are you gonna be able to move that further off the road? It seems to be pretty darn close to vehicles.
It hasn't been approved by consumers yet, but our intent is to move that into the substation on Sheridan by the DPW. So yes, it would get it off River Road
Yeah.
and into a secure area.
Jason, can I ask another question around that? Previously, when we were gonna do the solar upgrade and the install at the landfill or the former city dump, that was part of the project that I think was gonna be revamped as well. So now that, because that project isn't coming to fruition now.
That project's not dead.
Yep,
Okay,
That project's still viable.
okay.
yep.
So this potentially could be funded partially by that project?
No, this is a completely separate project. Has nothing to do with the solar. With the solar project, there is an interconnect that has to be built. And that is not, that will be paid for and reimbursed by the solar developer.
Okay, so
To the city.
this actual like installation or however the metering structure that's right there on River Road was not, had nothing to do with the connections to the city of that potential project?
No.
Okay, thank you.
So the next two projects, River Valley Underground, so Petoskey, this is Circuit 1 and Petoskey Circuit 5. So Circuit 1 feeds McLaren in the Central Business District, this building and this area down here in town. And then Circuit 5 feeds McLaren in the Burns building. So we consider these lines very critical. These lines leave our substation at Sheridan by the DPW and cut down through the River Valley. They cross the Bear River and then come up across Bridge Street and then go back down by Riverview Terrace and then head over towards Ione, Ingalls intersection there. After the storm, with the trees, luckily that segment of line did not incur any damage. We do have some maintenance that has to be done. It's not critical, but we do have to get down there and we have no way of getting there because a lot of that line is across the river or on private property where we just can't get the big bucket trucks in there to do that work. We do know that we've assessed, it's not imminent, but there is trees that have been damaged. And it's of great concern to us that as these trees potentially die off, what are they gonna do? So we did move these two projects up. I think originally they were maybe in the 2029 CIP, 2028, 2029. So we moved them up to next year. The major cost to this is that this work needs to be contracted out because it's too long of a pull for our crews to do. And it requires some large purchase of large wire. And that's the bulk of this. We have the conduits in place now. They were installed back, I think, when we did the River Valley project. And so we were thinking ahead of that already. So the pathway's there already. The Morgan, Preby, Hillcrest, Curtis, this is just a continuation of our undergrounding. And kind of the priorities of how these areas get picked is where do we get the best bang for our buck? And this is the next biggest, best bang for our buck. And with this, I'm gonna tie it back to the ice storm. Our undergrounding in this town saved our butt.
Yep.
If we didn't do this undergrounding over the years we've done this, we would have been in much worse condition. We would have had power back to town, but we would have not had power back within the 24 hours that we did to 95% of our customers. So.
Jason, just a quick question. Do you know what percentage of undergrounding we're at? this point?
System-wide, we're say 83%, I think. City, I say system-wide, so we reach out to Bayview and we're outside the city limits. So city limits, we're 78%, 79%.
Okay, thank you.
And then the last on the list there is the distribution pole testing. So again, this project has been on our CIP for years. We've thought about it, but with the ice storm, we know we lost power to town because of transmission line failures. That's why we lost power. And they've invested a lot of money into pole replacements on the transmission lines coming in to this area since then. And we know from conversations with some of those contractors and seeing the poles themselves, ourselves physically, they have insect damage and they're rotting. You couldn't tell that from the outside, so this is going to require pole testing. So we want to do that on our distribution and side of things. So we still have some areas that I would call critical areas that we're going to be years before we get to undergrounding them. We're going to test those poles and make sure that they're in good shape. If they're not, this testing will lead us to a, kind of a asset management plan where we pick which ones we're going to replace next. Next, Sarah. So this is just a photo of the neighborhood at Morgan, Preby, Hillcrest area. Again, undergrounding, new street lighting. And then with that, the lower lines there are cable and AT&T, those will get dropped as well. This is the metering structure we talked about over on River Road. And this is just a photo of some of the main distribution lines coming out of the substation at Sheridan, which kind of goes back to our River Road project and dropping those lines. 2027. So the first project on the list is the Huffman Lindell Elizabeth, just another undergrounding project. The Petoskey 6 circuit conversion. This is Sheridan Street, phase 1. Just another critical line that is on the, next on the list to underground. Mitchell Road substation and River Road fiber connections. So we can monitor our substations remotely, but right now it's on our electric side, it's old phone lines. Yeah, so it's not as secure as what could be with fiber. And so what we would utilize is city-owned fiber. We would extend that out, and so very secure. And then that would give us abilities to monitor those substations and different facilities better. The Metro Road substation transformer bushing replacement. This is just an asset management project on our substations to make sure we can provide power to the town. Substation maintenance. So this line item here includes a lot of inspection and testing of the different components at the substations that would then lead to an asset management plan to factor in replacement costs and what we would need to do to keep that maintained. Electric system GIS. So right now we have our primary mapped out and on a GIS map for our crews to use. The idea would be to map our secondary services, transformers, pedestals, handholds, and then eventually it into all of our lighting. That way it just gives us better response time when we have to deal with the situation, and then gives our guys better maps instead of having to go to and from the field to pull maps from the office. So we'll move into water sewer 2026. So we talked about the project. It's Howard Street, water and sanitary. That would go from Michigan Street to the Mitchell Street intersection. Upgrading the mains. Right now, the water main is undersized, so that'll give better fire flow to hydrants. It'll help move some water in the area. And then the sewer system is not undersized there. It's a clay pipe and it's in poor condition, so it needs to be replaced. Advanced metering infrastructure, so this is tied with our electric, so this would be water meters. And this gives customers more real-time data, gives our crews a better ability to monitor and do reads and shut-offs. The lime kiln well house and controls improvements. So this well sits down here on the shoreline bayfront. Not sure the age of that well, but we haven't really touched it in decades. It's time for a new motor. It's time for a new pump, new controls that would tie to our SCADA so we can see real time what the pumps are doing. And we actually, we're in design on this right now, but we just had some emergency work done to it over the weekend. So it tells you how old our infrastructure is. And then lead copper rule materials inventory, inventorying our system and then replacing those service lines. 27. So this year the list is pretty short, but it's pretty expensive. The Bay Rose Street. So there's our cost, Mayor, on the water and sewer. We talked about the undersized and the aged system.
It's important to know on the lead service lines, typically, we would go to the curb box. That's typically where our responsibility stops. With lead, we have to go all the way into the home. So we have to go on private property and run that all the way into the house. So it's obviously a lot more cost for us, and right now there's not a funding mechanism to be reimbursed or participate with grant funds, so that adds to our project cost.
What is the cost roughly of just a typical home that needs to be replaced?
We've been tracking that cost with our reconstruct projects, and it's anywhere from the neighborhood of $5,000 to $10,000, depending on what we have to do. Yeah. Some of them are easy where they're in green spaces and we don't have to do a lot of work. Others, there's hard surface and landscaping that's impacted. And when we say lead, I just want to clarify, when we say lead service line, it's not necessarily a lead connected service line. Eagle classifies anything galvanized because it could have been potentially connected to a lead, what they call a gooseneck at the main, at the main itself, as a lead service line or potential lead service line. So that's the classification. Just, I don't want to scare people into thinking that there's a bunch of lead out there. We've
Any guesstimate how many homes that we have that are in that catchment group?
I'm not sure. As you know, this year and then into next year, we're continuing to do a pretty significant inventory. So that inventory requires excavation on both sides of the curb stop to evaluate the material. And then we'll build our list. Based on past projects like our Howard Street right now, I think there's 6 or 8 that we have to do on that total length of project, which is like 2,900 feet of road.
Included in our project cost for Howard.
Yeah, we budgeted for that, yes.
How are you?
I'm budgeting for that. So as we move forward on our reconstructs, we're going in ahead of those projects and looking at that and then factoring those costs in.
So Shane, am I correct in understanding that some locations are being reimbursed for this, but others are not?
Correct.
This is a fine topic of conversation for Senator Demuth and Representative Fairburn.
I think they're starting more with what they consider distress, low, moderate income communities, and we don't meet that criteria, so there's not an opportunity for us at this point, but hopefully, again, using our legislators to.
Yeah, it's an unfunded mandate.
Yeah.
I think across the board in the state of Michigan, and I think even across the US, infrastructure is severely underfunded. There's a pot of money out there, and Shane alluded, that's going to, economically challenged communities. We've talked to our consultants about where can we get funds for the lead service line or capital projects as we expand water. We've been talking about wells and different things. There's just, in our consultants' experience right now, the pot of money is so small and the demand is so large, and they're not focusing on our demographic here in this area.
Jason, question with the dead end water quality issues that for 2028 was slated for, and it was 150,000. If you could just touch quickly on, is that a study or is that 150,000 for some of the potential repairs?
For some of the potential repairs. So we don't have a lot of dead end mains in town. We took care of one last year at the Bayview Avenue project. That one we have had particular issues with, and that, as far as we know, it solved those issues. We haven't had any complaints, and when we flushed hydrants, the guys didn't notice any major issues. Couple projects that could potentially be on those dead end in 28 would be Ann and Wesley Streets. Those go up the hill and dead end. Ideally, we'd like to take those dead ends and connect them back to Petoskey Street, Sheridan Street.
I know the one off of Hoffman, or it's either Hoffman or Lindell. There's a side street. I've heard complaints about water quality. Paramount.
Hoffman and Lindell are tied to a main that runs behind the stadium there, across the school property, and ties back into Hill Street. So
that Caramel, that would be a similar fix.
similar fix, yeah. So last year's fix was boring, so we didn't have to dig through people's backyards. We don't typically install HDPE pipes. Reason being is we've had so many years of experience where we had to thaw lines. We can't thaw HDPE. We can thaw ductile iron. So that's our standard, is ductile iron. But we know this is buried deep enough. We're not gonna have freeze thaw issues, or freezing issues. And we know that we're not gonna connect to anybody off that main. It's just it's a circulation main. Our idea with some of these other dead ends would be that we do similar type construction, boring, because they are going through, to make that tie on your Carmel Court, it has to go through somebody's property. Ideally, it'd go down a property line, but we're gonna have to get an easement, and, it's gonna be, that route's gonna have to be determined and talked through.
At risk of sounding self-serving, isn't Valley View on that same register?
Yes, it is. Yep. Valley View's another, that's a difficult one. I'd say more difficult than Carmel Court, because there's really, there's a couple options, but yeah.
Couldn't the Carmel Court connect to the bathrooms between tennis courts and the softball?
That's probably where we'd go, yeah. Yep.
And then can I ask another question that you had mentioned earlier? Are you finding anything, as you're finding like the places where the lead connections are on Howard Street, are you seeing any pattern of like age or anything that you're discovering that you could extrapolate upon and be like, okay, if the home is like older than like 90 years old, then we're finding issues? Is there any like rhyme or reason?
Not on Howard Street, no, because most of the stuff in the street is copper. The stuff we've found that's galvanized is on the homeowner side. And so probably over the last 20, 25 years, I know our stance in the city for any time a galvanized line was to break on a homeowner side or a on our side, we would go in and replace, if we did find a lead gooseneck, it was pulled out of the system. So we were doing this lead copper stuff 25 years ago. We started this. So our prior leaders here have been very proactive in tackling this issue. But yes, there can be a correlation or interpolation when you start to see that, historical data. And we did do that because we did have to do an initial list to Eagle a couple years ago. And so we did look at that with some initial investigations, randomized initial investigations, and then we went into looking at age of reconstructs or when things were constructed and said, well, these blocks could potentially be, have lead service line. And then that leads us into where we're at today, continuing our investigations. So we're not investigating areas we know they're safe, they're all copper. So we're looking at areas that we just don't know.
Thank you.
Any other questions before I move into motor pool? All right. So 2026, 2 vehicles. Pretty light year. A high dollar amount. The first on our list is the replacement of a sewer jet. This is a unique replacement because it expands upon the use of this particular piece of equipment. Right now, our current sewer jet is aging. We have to invest a lot of money into it. It's rusting out. So the carriage that the unit sits on, I think we're gonna have to pull it apart if we continue to keep this in service, much beyond a couple years from now. As we've put more and more stuff in the ground, we have a more difficult time digging and excavating to make repairs and construct things. So our electric's underground. With that, Spectrum goes underground, AT&T goes underground. Everybody that comes to town and wants to put a piece of fiber in the ground goes underground. DTE is underground. So we've got right-of-ways now that are just full, and we can't stick an excavator bucket in without hitting something. So this vehicle will help us in our maintenance repairs because it also doubles as a, what we call a hydro excavation. So can you flip to the next one, Sarah? This is the unit. On the back, there's a sewer jet. And with this sewer jet, we can vac debris when we clean it out of sewer mains. And that tube on the back is a big vacuum. And we would use water to excavate around utilities. Much of our older electric infrastructure that was put back in the mid-90s, early 90s, early 2000s, we're having to go back now and replace transformer pads. And to do that, we have to excavate around them. And so it's a lot of hand digging, a lot of time-consuming excavations. And so this unit would be able to excavate a smaller excavation at a much quicker rate. We would use this kind of truck almost on every single water service or water main break, just to help manage water and the mud. This is also used as a maintenance for our storm sewers. So that's that truck.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
We currently subcontracting with GFL on this, like they have a similar unit and it requires you to subcontract out.
It does.
To be like, you would be able to do that internally and not have to
Yep.
contract out.
We would still contract though. There's, for example, we do a sewer routine inspection and cleaning of known areas, particularly from the restaurants. We have a lot of grease buildup. And so I don't want to deal with that waste and our treatment plant won't take it. So GFL is going to be the one we call on to take care of that. They're the closest contractor and it can respond typically within an hour or two when we call them. And then the larger projects, we have a lot of things going on. And so larger projects, we're still going to contract out. So it's not going to eliminate the contracting, but it'll definitely reduce it and keep our guys busy. And make more, and make things more efficient. The second one on the list there is a public safety patrol car. This car was moved up we've been experiencing a lot of maintenance issues with this particular car. And so we put it in this CIP to replace in this year. Sarah, you want to flip? Yep, there you go. So that's what we're talking about there, replacement. Next, Sarah.
Looking at.
All right, so 2027. So this maybe looks like more of our typical year for motor pool upgrades. These are all replacements of current pieces of equipment or vehicles that we have. I guess I won't go line by line through everything, single one of them, but the gist of it is we look at service life and then maintenance records and how much is this vehicle or a piece of equipment costing us every year? And then we adjust the CIP accordingly. So what you see in 2026 and 2027 is pretty much set in stone, give or take a few things, but then once we move beyond that, you may see some things shift.
Okay, so when you hit on the modular vehicle barrier system.
Yes, yep. Rocky, you want to come up and talk about this? So this is actually a new piece of equipment. It's a barrier system. What we've looked at there is a system that would essentially, when we do street closures, be able to block off and protect the closed area for, what we say, 8 lanes or 8 different segments.
As we see the current, I shouldn't say current trends, but I guess it is somewhat current trends of safety during these large events, of closures of streets and parades and concerts and things like that, where people are driving vehicles through these areas. We're trying to be proactive to see what we can utilize in order to prevent something like that from happening here. We see the farmers market. We could utilize these things there, our parades, our downtown closures. There's a lot of use that we would be able to put these to, and they're 55 pounds a piece that hook together. So one person can deploy these things in a very short period of time, and it's kind of the revolutionized how people are blocking streets off now. And they are costly. However, the use that we would have of things, I think, would be very beneficial.
The quick gist of that type of barrier is it kind of is an L-shaped. It sits on the street like this, and as a vehicle would approach, it would kind of ramp the vehicle up and not allow them to continue on and lift the front end of the vehicle up.
If I could, and this is tried and tested?
Yes, actually, for the last 3 chiefs conference that I've gone to, everyone has raved about them. I've been in contact, actually, when Mike Robbins was here, I approached him about it, and we came in hot, and then as we continually see these tragedies occur, I think we move closer and closer to putting it in.
Okay. So this price would allow enough of these modules to be purchased to block off multiple streets at the same time?
Absolutely, yeah, it comes in, and this is actually the purchase of the trailer that comes with it. So they would all remain on the trailer, deploy the trailer to these locations, and then kind of like the barriers that we have down at the DPW now, they would be maintained and enclosed where you would be secured and locked. And then, yes, you would just be able to deploy them very quickly.
How much space would you cover, like for the parade? You've got numerous streets, would you?
Right, and I think this may be a good starting point where we do the main sections where Lake Street and Mitchell Street, and where there's the largest quantity of pedestrians, foot traffic, and then we approach you a couple years down the road to see where we're at and how much, you can go as far as you want, as much money as you want to spend. We can close everything out, but these things are, I mean, it shows bread trucks that can penetrate these things. They're very secure, and it's a really good system. So, and next in 2026, we will show you photos of that system.
That's like the farmer's market. You'll be able to barricade both ends of it.
Yes,
at the
yep.
same time.
So
Yeah.
building on John's comments, and I think that's where I was initially going to, was the scope of how many streets could be blocked off at once. I would really advise doing your research initially as soon as possible at what would be needed to barricade an entire route.
at one time instead of picking and choosing 2 or 3 streets. Because the bad guys are gonna look for the weaknesses. They're gonna look for where these aren't. So I would strongly recommend moving ahead at this point and at least putting together your quote for enough to cover multiple streets, 6, 8 streets at a time, like the parade route. They're getting smart on how to hurt people. I think we need to be smarter to defeat them as much as possible up front.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that because we have discussed, and we don't want to shock the room, but that would be our final outcome of yes, we need to close everything off. I'm a proponent for that, obviously, but once again, I mean, we're talking numbers here.
It's money is money, but
That's right.
it just takes one smart person to do a bad thing to find a weakness.
I'm definitely on board with that. We can get to those numbers.
Yeah, and right now, the manufacturer that we're dealing with, and have been talking to, they have resources and will assist us in grant writing. So right now in the CIP, the funding sources are 50% grant, 50% city fund.
Why does it go under motor pool? Is it because it's on a trailer?
Yeah, well, large purchases, motor pool, and then it'll be utilized by public safety, public works for the street closures like the farmer's market and everything. Asset marked under motor pool.
I would just say, I know we're only doing an overview tonight, but I'd really be interested to hear more about this and whether or not this might be something that should be moved up to 2026, at least in some form. I understand we're already in a hole here apparently, but this just seems like something I would hate to wait a year and not have some element of it available to the community. So I just put that out there for consideration.
I agree.
So do I.
Community Foundation.
Okay, any other motor pool questions?
It's great that the city has a motor pool and is working this way instead of coming back each year saying we need more money for paying for a fire truck. And those type of things we're investing ahead of time. So 1 year maybe look like it's minimal, but money is still going in every year to this fund, correct? So I think it's unfortunate the city is doing this. It's like a capital improvement plan for motor vehicle replacement. I think this is a real plus for you guys that you envision this and can carry this project out. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of go back to Tina, your comment about the ice storm. I mean, we have our motor pool between all of our divisions, electric, water, public safety. We're very proactive in keeping those vehicles up. During that ice storm, we really virtually had no major breakdowns because of the fact that we invest money into our motor pool. We had some minor things going on, but we maintained pretty well through that. And we were putting a lot of miles on and a lot of running and using our bucket trucks like they haven't been used before. So. The next category is future projects. So Shane alluded to the 2032 list. There's a big list there. We didn't list them all. But the major one that's going to be probably the most expensive is the public works buildings and parks and rec buildings. These are all owned by the enterprise fund, electric. They're in dire need of upgrades. We have a lot of pending projects that need to happen if we don't continue to invest in, upgrades and replacement. So this is the first photo you see there is the cold storage facility. That's what the Parks and Rec operates out of. So they got their offices and garage there. And then with that, there's cold storage there to keep our equipment and everything out of the weather and stored. Next photo is Public Works. Very aged building, definitely not energy efficient. And it's requiring more and more maintenance every year. And we're struggling to have a large enough building to keep our equipment and vehicles in year round. Next photo. Salt barns. So you see the doors, they're in rough shape. Some of the, wood, I don't want to call it siding, it's more of a retaining wall, but the wood is in dire, in need of repairs. And you can't tell from these photos, but it needs new roofs. And then with that, is the next photo that's on there, the community garden. So council knows we purchased the Midwest building years ago, and that the idea, the concept, the overall concept was to move everything onto one side for safety and to get all of public works operations and recycling, compost, and those type of operations separated from the public. So that's the idea with that. With that,
I say it comes to $21 million at this point.
21 million is just for public works building. As a combined total, it's 30 million. So with our rate study on the electric side, we are looking at scenarios on how that could be funded, and how that gets pushed forward. I don't have anything to tell you right now because we're still working through that. And until we know how we can fund something, I'm not gonna bring something to you and ask how to move forward. A lot of design has to go into this yet. We've done space programming, we've done concepts, but that's as far as it's gone. So I think as we talk about the future here, we need to look at when do we enter into the design, and then what's our plan to implement that. And
Are you currently occupying the Midwest siding, the old Midwest siding building?
not fully, but yes, we have a lot of equipment that's not used every day stored up there. And then we do have things that are kind of like, we want to save them for the future, but so it's used as storage.
The offices are still down in the main building.
The offices are still at the main building, yeah.
Wasn't it the intention eventually to move offices into the,
No.
no?
Only temporarily as we would reconstruct, because the idea would be that the new Public Works building would be reconstructed in the same footprint or same vicinity as the old.
So if we go back to like the 2021 capital improvement plan or 2022, originally we had the DPW replacement in 2024, and then it got bumped up to 2026, and now we're talking 2031.
Well, it's in the projects lacking funding, so it's not in the 6 years until we figure out how to fund it.
Okay. And then also in the salt sheds, would you consider maybe a clear span building instead of like the traditional wooden structures? Like with the concrete bunkers and those clear on the aluminum frames?
I would say no, because architecturally that doesn't fit with what we're looking for. And second, it would require a much larger building footprint than what we currently have. So those buildings right there, and something that we would propose to build new, those walls act as retaining walls. So we can stack material. Material in that barn in the middle there is stacked almost up to the trusses because those walls act as a retaining wall. On those clear span or clear story, I know what you're alluding to, the walls are much shorter. And so you can't stack material. So it just spreads out over space.
All right, that makes sense. Thank
You
you.
need a couple buildings, basically.
Couple buildings or one large one, which would require, land and, and they're white. So they stick out like a sore thumb.
City needs.
Yes, and I apologize, John, I kind of skipped over him a little bit when, after Sarah presented, so I want to go back to.
Problem here.
Thank you, Jason.
Don't look at the screen. So one of the things we have, the planning and zoning, yeah.
Oh, that was my fault, Jim.
No, I meant to stop it there, but, as John has reviewed our CIP, and actually I want to give a little assist to John. He's the one that kind of pushed me into this, software program that we used. He said, well, you might want to check this out. I have another client that's using this software package, and so as a staff, we did a demo and really liked what it could do, and certainly saved us a significant amount of time. So appreciate that. But John put together a couple potential projects within the general fund that I wanted John specifically to touch on. So John, if you could kind of take the microphone right there, that's fine.
And we have two projects that were proposed for 2026. The first one is kind of kicking off the Historic District Study Committee that is a implementation of the city council's recent adoption of the Historic District Commission ordinance. As Shane has mentioned on the slide, there's potential grant funding, 50-50, 50% match. And the thought was that we'd have about $25,000 that we could retain a pre-qualified historic preservation consultant that could lead as the team lead with the study committee as they go through the process of evaluating various areas in town that would qualify and be eligible for historic district. The second project that we put into the request for this upcoming year is to do a sub-area plan for Ward 4, primarily the Emmett and Standish corridor. Ward 4 is seeing a lot of redevelopment with the lofts at Lumber Square, Maple Block. There's the proposed project with the DPW. There's the extension of the Bear River Recreation Area, the extension of the Greenway, opportunities for housing, for rehabilitation, and other sites for redevelopment. One in particular is the industrial properties that are along the Bear River that are somewhat in the stage of obsolescence. So the idea is to be pretty much in advance, doing advanced planning to figure out what those redevelopment opportunities would be and how we could kind of connect the entire neighborhood together with all these new redevelopment projects.
NES,
Pardon me?
the NES zones, neighborhood enterprise zones, is that what you're talking about?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So those are a couple planning and zoning projects that we've added as well. It could be that those merge back into contractual services in the operating budget, but I wanted to make sure we highlight those because that was coming from our planning director. Thought those would be important to highlight. So
Shane, can I ask a quick question?
yeah,
Would that include a traffic study plan?
For Ward 4? Yes, we would take, part of a sub-area plan would take a look at non-motorized and vehicular as well.
And the $55,000 would be used for?
The entire study.
Thank you.
John, since the tribe was brought up with the Standish sidewalks, would other potential partners be involved in this? And this would be part of the outreach to other partners?
Yeah, yes, part of the sub-area plan, yes. You have a lot of different stakeholders.
Great.
Absolutely.
so just before we answer any final questions, I just want to kind of give, again, kudos to staff. I've said this before, I'm blessed to work with a really outstanding group of professionals and it's been a challenging year in a lot of different aspects. The ice storm was obviously a gut punch for many of us. And as I look over at Jason, Jason stepped into a very challenging position. Number one, he's replacing somebody that was very well respected and loved in this community. And Mike did a great job for us for many, many, many years and really loved Mike and got a short amount of time to work alongside him. And Jason, worked underneath Mike very directly as well. And so it was a nice, smooth transition on paper. But then things started happening, obviously, that Mike never even got to experience. And so Jason was thrown into the fire very quickly with the ice event and the Howard Road reconstruction. To be blunt, hasn't gone as smoothly as what we would have liked. And hopefully we meet the milestones that are in front of the contractor. But this next milestone is very critical that we get this section done before school starts. So I know Jason spent a lot of time on that project, kind of hand-holding up there. So he's had his hands full in the transition, but has done a great job. And then just, the staff that we have are outstanding and I'm again blessed to be able to work alongside them. It's a great team. So any further final questions for any staff member or any general questions before we depart? Again, certainly appreciate your time this evening. Rick?
Oh, just a brief, particular project, comment here on, under projects lacking funding. The old historic Carnegie building I see
Yes.
is listed. And the description of work there, I would like to see expanded to include the exterior entry steps.
Yeah.
All of that. And maybe some of this, like facade improvements, maybe some of that will be able to be done as part of this recent energy grant. And
Yeah.
so the funds could be, or the estimate could be readjusted to include that front entry steps and portico area.
Yeah, thank you. We did receive a $100,000 grant for the Carnegie building. You may or may not know, that is, the city does own that building. We are responsible for that building, for better, for worse. And sometimes when you look at older buildings, but I know the library does a lot of capital expenses in that building as well. They wanted to do some tuck pointing on that on the Carnegie. They ran out of funds from their project. They ran over on the library project. So that the entry steps are certainly right up there as well and need to be addressed. They're showing some concrete delamination and there's concerns there as well. So there's a number of projects as you peel back this plan into the projects lacking funding that probably should be further up, but our job, I guess, is to try to find those funding mechanisms to make this viable. So thank you for that. Joe?
Being the new guy here, what's the process if there was some discussion about trying to move up prioritization? Where does that take place? You know, the people back here,
Yeah, if you,
barriers, how do we actually have that discussion? Say, maybe we ought to change things around.
yeah, absolutely. That's part of this process. So as planning commission reviews this, when it's on their agenda, they can make a recommendation onto city council, or they I'm just gonna throw this out there, the what's the name of modular vehicle barriers, this needs to go up. That could be a recommendation from planning. That could be something we talk about at city council. So any one of these projects in that binder that you see need to move up closer to being more viable. That's the discussion we'll have at city council. It could be a recommendation from planning commission, but this doesn't need to be done on September 15th. Last time it took us a couple of meetings to work through some feedback, but I would say don't wait until September 15th. Get me some things that you want considered. And so we can put a list together to have a good discussion come the 15th, potentially.
And ultimately, it isn't until really approval by city council of the CIP, which could be a couple months down the road, as well as the inclusion of what is our budget for next year.
For the operating budget, yeah.
Operating budget for 2026, that sometimes leads right into December.
Yep.
So.
Right, because the CIP drives the budget.
Right.
So the sooner the CIP is completed, I can plug those into the budget.
One thing is though, is if you think that stuff we want to move up, you're gonna have to consider funding for them back. Are we gonna take and not fund some of the things that we said we were gonna do in 26, 20, 27? Are we gonna push those off? Are we not gonna do them in partial? You know what I mean? You know, those are discussion things that will come out in the next 3-4 months. I gotta say thank you, Shane, for you've switched this over to a new system. I think it's pretty clear. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I appreciate what you guys have done. I know everybody here does. I've taken and digging into a new system. You set this up so it's pretty easy to look at and follow along with. I don't know. I see everybody shaking their head.
Yeah, I think the general public's gonna like this once we put the budget book in there, because it's very interactive. Like I said before, it shows the information in a way that's easily understood. And so I think that'll be another benefit that comes out of this package. So.
Anything else?
Just a quick question. And this is just way out there. But when Bay Harbor was first initiated and brought in as part of Petoskey, was there a time frame before they cut off to become their own entity?
Will not happen.
It's 50,
So that's.
it's 50 years.
Okay.
well, 50
The
or.
agreement-
And then it'd be renewed.
Yeah.
Then
Be renewed.
then what happens is, at the end of that 50 years, it comes back to the city, do you wanna continue this, or do you not? It's totally up to the city. to-
So it's the
first and
city's,
foremost.
so it'll be the city's decision, not Bay Harbor's. Thank
Not
you.
Bay Harbor, city, and I thought Resort Township. had-
Resort.
Just
Thank
the
you.
city.
I just didn't want to be moving forward and all of a sudden need a lot, the leg is pulled out from underneath
And
us.
Bay Harbor is part of the city too.
Yeah.
They're taxpayer just like everybody else is.
425, they're a part of it.
Thank you.
Thank you all, thank you all very much.
If no further business comes before this meeting, I call this meeting adjourned.